the value, like say number of, variables like number of heads when some coins are tossed, let me say n coins are tossed, and you're talking about number of accidents, number of deaths, number of births in an hour or in a city, in a day, in a particular traffic junction for 1 hour, all those cases, you can exactly count what is happening. You can see the values like say number of seeds, number of the seeds germinating, and then number of crimes happening in a locality in 1 hour, in a day, etc. You can easily observe the discrete values. So these are all examples for discrete random variable. So you can collect data, you can count how many times they have repeated, you'll get the frequency. From the frequency, you can compute the relative frequency, which can be taken as the probability. So this is how easily we can observe these variables. And also, when you look into the variables available in the real life situations, like say you want to observe the height of a soldier. So this is an important aspect. So at the time of giving your or making an entry into any military campaigns, height and weight become an important factor. So measurement of height is important. You are giving some competitive examination. So marks in a simple or a competitive examination. So that could be a continuous concept. So here in the offline exams or in our syllabus, to just make the corrections easier, we stick to the marking system as giving only the integer values. But in reality, marks is taken to be continuous. So just to make it easy, we just give either 1 or 0 or half. But the actual marking system is a continuous marking system. So marks is treated as an I could say a continuous variable. Now similarly, you could be interested in weight of a particular item, gold item, weight of gold, weight of newborn baby, weight of students, etc. So in such cases, even though you can say that I am measuring my height or a height of a soldier, I have used a particular tool, measuring tool, and I have come up with an answer like say 163.5 centimeters. You can say my marks in the examination is say 36.5%, or the weight of the maybe purchased a gold chain, so the weight comes out to be say 0.24.3756 grams. So you can say it is taking exactly this particular value, but yet why it is not called as discrete? Why is it called as continuous? The question is that you are using your tools. So you may be using a scale here available in the shop to record the value. Now the scale itself is produced or made such that it has the capacity only to record the first 4 digits after the decimal point. But in reality, the weight could have several decimal digits after the decimal point. Similarly, your marks, this is an average marks or a particular marks. For you, it is 36.5. But when you look into the possibilities, and if you have negative marking system, you can end up getting anything between 100 and minus 100. So you cannot specifically tell what are those exact values. For you, it is 36.5. For others, it could be anything between these two. Now, similarly, here the measuring tape or tool or device, whatever you're using, it just gives you the value up to only 1 decimal digit. Therefore, you are recording it as 163.5. but who knows, in reality, it could be any such number like this. So the concept of continuous random variable is that you can observe, you can record using any particular tool like measuring tape or scale, or you can have your marks recorded. But that shows the case for one such particular case. But when you look into the possibilities, which is range, it is very large. In some cases, it is very small in some cases, but it takes infinitely many values. So it is not just taking one or two values. As said, your number of heads when you toss 3 coins could be 0, 1, 2, 3. You can easily count them. But in these cases, when I say what is the height of a soldier, you cannot give an answer. What best you can say is maybe with respect to the recent cases, it should be somewhere, above 165 or 160 centimeters. There will be some cutoff values. So when I say above 165, then there are infinitely many possible values. So you cannot record each and every possible values, but what best you can do is you can categorize them into various subgroups, which we call as class interval. So you can have a distribution created like this. So initially you will compute the frequency distribution. Now let me say that we are, at the place where the initial tests are going on, where the recruitments are going on, we have come up with the frequency distribution. So I have some 100 people who have come to apply, and their data on heights. I'll receive an application from which I can process a set of variables like this. So out of this 100, I have got 20 in this section, maybe 30 in this section, 40 in this section, and again 30, 70, 90, maybe 10 in this section, roughly. So your values differs. So every time whenever you prepare a distribution, it differs. So that's why these distributions are called as observed frequency distribution. So as some more people come, the frequency changes. The same distribution for heights, if you're preparing it for the next month in some other geographical location, it changes. But in large scale, the probabilities doesn't change. So you can observe that when you have done this for a larger scale, instead of for 100 guys, if it is for 1,000, 10,000, then whatever the relative frequency compute, that remains the same, because you will observe only slight variations in the frequencies. The probability remains the same. So here it is 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, and 0.1. Every f value divided by 100. So you can take this as probability. So if you, out of this 100, if you pick, one person randomly and say what is the height of this soldier, or what is the probability that height of this person is, above 180, then the answer is 10%. So there is 10% chance that the randomly selected soldier will have his height above 180. Okay, random. So this is how probabilities are observed. So if you have some past data on the height of the soldiers, now you can make what are the chances of getting, high and low probabilities, and based on that you can revise the cutoff system. So you're observing that you're getting maximum cases here, that is above 70. Now since you feel that many people who come for the, their initial trials, so we have observed this happening in the past, so you may, to avoid the much of the trouble or to avoid the rush, you can now give the new cutoff point. Only those who have an height above 170 centimeters can apply. So this is how the revision is happening. So you're observing probabilities. So based on that, you're taking some decision. On the other hand, if you say that you're observing most of the people here, say out of these 100, or the past data suggests that much is happening here, very low is in this case, then you will see that there is no revision for the cutoff, because much of the people what we observe are in between 165 and 175. So let me have the previous cutoff itself. So I'll not do any revision. So all this selection process happens based on the prior information or past experience what you have. Even in the marks, the cutoff cases, you can see that many companies comes and ask if you have scored above 90%, only then you are eligible to apply. So there are cases where the if you have come up with some any CET or gate examinations, usually every time the cutoff marks changes. Why it changes? Because it is based on various factors. So you have the scores, they have the probabilities, they know how many seats are available, how many amount could be spending as given to the given as scholarships to students. So they give all these criteria, and based on how many they need and how many have applied, how many have secured a particular marks, they will define the cutoff. So they could say 67.5 is the cutoff. Then only those students who have scored above 67.5%, they will be called as qualified in the gate. And though you have scored 67.49, you will be called as not qualified in the examination. So this is how probabilities, are applied in those particular cases. Okay, so we are talking about probability distribution of a continuous variable. It is similar to that of a frequency distribution, continuous frequency distribution. You'll have class intervals and f. You're converting f into p and you're calling the probabilities. Even here you will observe the total of probability is equal to 1. But here these probabilities are not for a particular value of x, but for a range. So if you look into the graph of such distributions, say I have 165 centimeters and 170 centimeters, there I had probability as 0.3. So you will have the graph like this. Whereas in case of the discrete distribution, where you had x0, 1, 2, 3 with probabilities 0.125, 0.375, and so on, you can exactly mark what are those cases. So you can erect a line. So here every case is for x is equal to 0. So you will produce a line graph like this. Line erected such that the length of the line is equal to the probability. So this is called as probability histogram or just histogram. So we have studied the frequency histogram, where for class intervals you'll be erecting the bars like this. Now the same thing. Now in those cases I said 0 to 10. Now we are restricting ourselves for exactly equal to 0. So the width of the histogram reduces to those particular points. So you can see that just the lines are erected there. Now I have a case where probability is for each and every value in between 165 and 170. So what you do is you will erect the line, continuous lines, one after the other from 165 up to 170. Or instead of doing that, you can simply say the probability is just equal to this, and you can avoid this construction. Is typically like we are highlighting the top part of the histogram. Next, from 170 to 175, again say I had 40% cutoff. So this is the probability. So it started with 165, then it is going like this, and after some point it comes. So you are observing a continuous line here, whereas here no such continuous line is observed. So this is called as the probability function. It doesn't define or give you individual probabilities. It just gives you how the shape is. Whereas here, if you define the function, it gives you exact probability. So this function, which produces the outline for all the probabilities, that is called as probability density function. And now we call those density functions and indicate those density functions by f of x. So in case of discrete, we call it as p of x because it gives probability. You can observe what is the probability for each and every case of x. Here, it doesn't give you the probability for each and every case. It just gives you the probability for a particular range. So whenever we have observed the shape or an outline, we talk about, say, density or area of the curve, usually from the curve up to, say, or outlined with respect to x-axis. So the concept of area comes into picture. So the concept of area and probability becomes one and the same. So using the density function, if you want to see what is the probability, if I say what is the probability that my x is in between 165 and 170, we mean we are talking about this. So I have several such probabilities, several such values. So I'm talking about this section, which is nothing but the area in the curve 165 to 170. So that is my probability. My x is lying between this is equal to 0.3. That means that this area is equal to 0.3. Now, since it talks about the area of a particular cutoff, if you measure all such areas and look into the total area is equal to 1 for any probability density function. And if you have a mathematical form of the function, and if you want to compute the area for a mathematical function is given by integration. So you will say that integration of f of x will be equal to 1 in case of continuous, where f of x is PDF. PDF indicates that it is the probability function or probability density function for a continuous random variable, whereas the same concept in terms of discrete is total probability is equal to 1. So in that sense, the total is nothing but total area. So this is the basic difference between probability density function and probability mass function. So we'll look into various such problems under these cases, whereas we'll not go into in detail about this density function because it involves integration and much other complex other tools and nature involved there. So what we do is we will look into what called as the standard case. Standard case. So till now, the examples or the probability distributions what I have given you, it is for an observed case. So you are observing some data, and based on the observation, you are creating the probability distribution. In the field of statistics, you have a case where you can come up with the distributions. You can come up with your P of x as a formula, f of x as a formula based on certain theoretical results and theorems. So those distributions are called as theoretical distributions. So every time, collecting the data, observing the data, and computing the probability may be time consuming. So instead, if we have a functional form which could generate easily what is the probability of getting 2 heads when 6 coins are tossed, then that answer is obtained using this form. So what we are doing here is now we have the past data. So using the data, we are just answering the question, can I come up with a simple mathematical explanation to these cases in general? And the answer is this. So you have various results, various theorems, the laws, basic mathematics involved there, which produces what called as the standard cases of P of x, standard cases for f of x in terms of the function, and that will be studying in the next class. So I'll stop here. I've just taken an hour. So tomorrow also you will have a session from 3. Is 3 fine with you? Or do you have any other class? 3 to 4? If you're not free, I can just advance it to 2 to 3 or 2:30 to 3:30.